No, Nicki Minaj, and why the industry is not only afraid of her, but also hates her. It's been a little while since we spoke about Nicki Minaj. The last time we spoke about Nicki, she was going through a couple public situations. One of them was that beef with Lache, as Kodak once called her. You guys remember that story? I, of course, had a lot of things to say about that situation. How that whole ordeal started was Nicki ended up submitting her record, Super Freaky Girl, to the rap category at the Grammys. The institution ended up rejecting her record, while at the same time accepting Lotto's Big Energy record as a rap song. They were dead wrong for that. Nicki had some things to say about it, Lotto had some things to say about it, and I, of course, had some things to say about it myself. They ended up going at each other like it was a full-on beef, no vegan shit, right? And I suggest you check out that video I made on it over 9 months ago. I'll leave a link to it in the description below. Now that situation, just really looking back on it, kind of validated some things Nicki herself has spoken about in the past, which is the mistreatment she has received from the industry. And you know what? Up until that point, I never agreed with her, and I thought that was complete BS. But I think that situation, to me at least, right, I don't know about you, but to me exposed a couple things and validated some of the things she herself has expressed in the past. I don't think Nicki Minaj is perfect, far from actually, but I do think someone who's as big and as successful as her speaking on the ill treatment she's received is automatically gonna make a lot of people look at her sideways because she's so successful. And someone who's at that level, who's already made it in the industry, can't possibly be going through something like that, right? That's a lie. That couldn't be further from the truth. Also, the fact that Nicki is so vocal about the things she's not happy about makes her appear jaded and angry. That's probably one of the most prominent pieces of criticism she's received during her time in the industry, especially during these last couple years. I think Nicki Minaj is a very intimidating figure in music, but more so in hip-hop, for the simple fact that she is a woman who's running circles around pretty much all the guys, except for the top dogs, which are the Drakes, Eminems, Kendricks, J. Cole's, Jay's, Ye's, etc. Anyone outside of that, she's been running circles around, and that is really just a fact, right? Not based on my opinion, by the way. I'm saying just looking at the accomplishments, that's what it is. I think being a woman, like in Nicki Minaj's case, who's in a male-dominated space, comes with a couple challenges. One of them being she's had to toughen up. So she's had to strip away parts of her femininity in order to compete with the masculine that is the hip-hop industry, because hip-hop is a male-dominated space. There are some other things I want to touch on regarding that, but first, like the title says, why the industry hates Nicki Minaj. Sounds interesting? Like the video and subscribe. Let's touch on it. So if you guys don't know, Nicki Minaj is actually gearing up towards dropping her 5th studio album. It's actually going to be the sequel to Pink Friday, which is her debut album. It dropped on November 22nd, 2010, so almost 13 years ago. She announced Pink Friday 2 about a week ago with this post right here. Dear Barbs, I've been trying to find the right time to tell you this for a few days. Due to some really exciting news that I'll share with you guys at a later time, I've shifted the album date just a tad bit. Trust me, it'll be well worth the wait. But since I am shifting the date just a tad, I'd like to give you guys a tiny sip of some more album tea so that I don't have to get cussed out. So here it goes. My new album will be released on November 17, 2023. So this is going to be Nicki's 5th studio album, and she's going to continue from where she left off. She came in the game with the big splash that is Pink Friday. It was really the start of an iconic run for her. She was 27 years old at the time of releasing that, is 40 now, so she's been around, right? But she's gearing up towards dropping her first album in over 5 years. So right now, there's a lot of conversations floating around regarding Nicki Minaj. That's one of the reasons why I kind of want to talk about this, right? But one of the bigger conversations that's current right now is, of course, Cardi B versus Nicki Minaj. So Cardi B always somehow comes up in a conversation when we're talking about Nicki, right? Which I've always found very strange because I've never understood how anyone could compare these two. Honestly, I just think they're in two completely different leagues. And sometimes low-key, I feel like people are really trying to set up Cardi B by comparing her to Nicki Minaj. But let's not get ahead of ourselves and let's explore this convo and talk, right? I want to continue the conversation by showcasing this clip that went viral the other day where Charlamagne the God was comparing Cardi B to Jay-Z. He was essentially saying that Cardi B did for female rap what Jay-Z did for male rappers. Ain't no way! And I'll play you a snippet of it. Check it out.
Salute to Cardi. Cardi shifted that. Cardi
she started using that influence to.
Cardi shifted that in the culture. And I didn't even think about that till you said it just now. But Cardi shifted that in the culture. Because Cardi made it to where, you know, you the OG, you the person that's made all the money, you sold all the records, but you have no problem putting your arm around that next person. Cardi did for female rap what Jay-Z and Drake did. You know what I mean? Like Jay-Z, whatever that next thing was out.
So this clip started going viral on Twitter, which of course then prompted the same conversation people have been forcing, which is Cardi B deserves more credit for what she's doing for female rappers because, and that's where Nicki comes in, you can't salute Cardi B without discrediting Nicki Minaj. Nicki's obviously the standard for what female rap is today, so you know that makes sense. Nicki Minaj set the bar so high that the industry is now trying to bring the bar down so someone like Cardi B can actually have a chance at competing with a Nicki Minaj. And shout out to Cardi, she's very accomplished, has amassed a lot of great things for herself, like having the most streamed female rap album of all time with Invasion of Privacy on Spotify. Salute to her. But the other side of that is she's only put out that one album. Until Cardi B puts up 5 of those over the span of 13 years and dominates every aspect of the music industry and becomes a cultural icon off of the strength of her work ethic like Nicki Minaj, I refuse to bring up that one, of course, really great accomplishment to put her against a head honcho like Nicki, who of course has a proven and lengthy track record that overrides a single accomplishment. Also, and I'm not making any accusations, but I'll say this, it is possible to pay for streams, but it's not possible to pay for longevity in music. It's one thing to accumulate a lot of streams, but it's another thing to shift the culture with the mere impact of your presence and records like Nicki Minaj while not being favored by the industry. And here's the thing, there are tons of women who came before Nicki like Foxy Brown, who Nicki was actually influenced by, or Trina, or Missy Elliott, or the great and classy Lauryn Hill, who's in a completely different lane. So Nicki Minaj ain't the first female rapper, however, she's of course the first one who's taken it to the extent she's been able to take it. So she's the one who provided the blueprint for all the women who are thriving in hip-hop as we speak, including Cardi B herself. Nicki Minaj, for anyone who didn't know, also gets studied by all the major labels when it comes to the development of their female rappers, because she's been tested in the game, has proven herself to be an everlasting figure in the industry, and that's the ultimate goal for a record label. Not only are they hoping that they're going to sign this act, invest all this money into them, so they can then recoup all the money back and some, but the ultimate goal is always, we want them to have longevity. How do we make this new female rapper we signed reach that place? Well, let's start by studying the person who's lasted the longest, which is Nicki. Latto's a great example of this. Latto, who's considered one of the hottest new female rappers in the game by many, is actually heavily influenced by, you guessed it, Nicki Minaj. All the female rappers who are popping right now grew up on Nicki Minaj, but Latto actually spoke on this.
8 years old, but then Nicki comes out, and you know, at that age, like the Barbie theme and the color hair and like it was just so animated, so it captivated me at I wanted to say 5th grade, I think you like 4th, 5th grade, like 8 years old, something like that. And that's when that put the icing on the cake. That's when I was like, oh yeah, I want to rap. I want to be like Nicki. Yeah, for sure. I cut my hair in a bang. I got damn Barbie chain, all that, for sure. But the older I got, that's when I started going back into the female rappers that I had heard growing up. And I'm like, damn, I wish I had that.
Latto is just one of the most popular women in rap who's publicly spoken about that. Circling back to what was said in that clip I played you, one of the biggest criticisms Nicki Minaj has received during her time in the industry is the fact that she hasn't taken a lot of female rappers with her to the top, meaning she hasn't collaborated with a lot of them, she hasn't co-signed a lot of them, and all around hasn't been too quick to share her success with the rest of the women in the rap game. She's doing a lot of that now. I mean, she bodied the hell out of that Pound Town verse.
Oh, red, my name is Pink, I made him go get that ink.
Let him eat this baby pussy, now you keep trying to link. From my point of view, this is actually a fair criticism. The thing about Onika is I think she waited too long to do that. Personally, I think Nicki has been so caught up in her own success to the point where the thought of bringing somebody with her has been the last thing on her mind. And I'm going to choose to not criticize her too harshly on that not because the barbs are going to find me and put me in a body bag and dump my ass in the lake. They gonna kill you. Kind of a little bit of that. YouTuber BlackySpeakz has been found dead at the age of 27 on Lake Mirage. He was shot and killed by the barbs after criticizing rap star Nicki Minaj in a YouTube video. Just a little. But because I think Nicki Minaj's presence, accomplishments, advancements in the rap industry as a woman alone, black woman at that, has by default allowed the rest of the women who came up after her to go and get it for themselves in the first place. What she did for all the women in hip hop is she simply opened the floodgates so the water figuratively speaking, could start flooding in. The thing about Nicki Minaj is she's been so busy carving the path to the point where she hasn't had a lot of mental space to think beyond carving that space. I kind of look at it as if a person is the one like Nicki has been for female rap, how much exactly can one do all by their lonely while simultaneously breaking down the door so the rest of y'all can actually get in? The reason why Cardi B is able to first of all have a career as a female rapper is because of Nicki. Let's just make that clear before we move on. I think that in itself is something people as a collective have to accept. Without Nicki Minaj's success, 90% of the female rappers making all these millions and having a fan base wouldn't be possible, because Nicki Minaj is the prototype that all the labels are studying because she is the one. In relation to female rap, I see Nicki as almost the base ingredient to the main dish. If you don't have the things that made her successful in a female rapper that you're trying to break, ultimately the dish is going to be whack. It's not going to be what it could have been otherwise. So why wouldn't all the major labels study the playbook? That's backwards. As for what I said earlier, I think what happened is Nicki Minaj waited too long because she was so busy carving the path, and in return she was able to, get to the top by her lonely when she could have contributed so much more to the success of so many more women. Now the other side of that is, there's actually two, but starting with the first one, she obviously doesn't owe anybody anything. And this is something a lot of people fail to bring up when this criticism comes into play. There's no such thing as Nicki Minaj had to bring anybody with her to the top. The only thing she had to do was to get it for herself, and in return, as she's making it, all these other women see the success and are inspired enough to get it for themselves. At the end of the day, we don't criticize all the guys in hip-hop for not bringing, the people with them to the top. Why would we criticize Nicki Minaj so strongly for that? Part of the reason is, of course, because women are the minority in hip-hop. Hip-hop is a male-dominated space, so as someone who's a part of the minority, why are you not bringing us with you? That's the logic here, right? But that logic also suggests that Nicki owes the world something, which she doesn't. The world didn't owe her a goddamn thing. She literally got out the mud, kicked down the doors, and forced herself in this bitch when doing so was unheard of. That's why when Nicki Minaj initially came out, although she was getting a lot of success because, she had the whole Young Money machine behind her, and the greatest rapper alive at the time put a lot of stock into her winning, everything was, like it always is, at the end of the day, depending on whether or not she performed. And Nicki damn sure performed beyond anything we've seen. She was actually at the time getting a lot of pushback from the industry. And I know this because I grew up on Wayne and Young Money, so when she first got signed, I was literally sitting on my dad's computer on the forums soaking it all up because Young Money signed their first female act. That was huge. I mean, that was a big moment for hip-hop because Nicki was labeled as the chosen one even back then, but everything was merely a matter of potential. Things could have gone either way for her. She could have completely fumbled the bag on her first drop and became just another rapper who got shelved. But it turns out that Young Money just hit the lotto, and Pink Friday, the project, ended up pushing 375,000 copies in its first week of being out. And this was before the streaming era. So things could have gone either way, but everything happened the way it happened, and here we are in 2023. Also remember how she was going on this tour with Riri, the Last Girl on Earth tour. Rihanna announced on April 5th, 2010 that she was going to bring Nicki with her along with Kesha, and this was supposed to be a very big look for Nicki since she was on the verge of becoming a megastar in the mainstream. Now what happened was merely 2 days after Rihanna announced it, Nicki ended up pulling out of this tour, and she got a lot of backlash for this. Because from the outside, you're this new artist in the industry, Riri brings you on tour, and you pull out 2 days before? You ungrateful little thing. That's what the critics and the industry head said. They called it the biggest mistake of her life. By the way, she canceled it because she was knee deep in the process of working on Pink Friday, which she ended up releasing that same year, and it all ended up working out for her. And before she signed to Young Money, there was this bidding war between several of the biggest record labels in the industry. Everybody wanted Nika to sign with them on a dotted line, and in the end, she did sign with Young Money in 2009 at the age of 26. And about this, Nicki managed to do something really crazy with this deal, which is unheard of till this day. Despite being a new face in the industry and despite not having the most lengthy track record, she managed to strike a deal where she retained 100% of her masters. And on top of that, managed to sign a very favorable deal where her merchandising revenue, on top of sponsorships, endorsements, and touring, was all gonna go to her. A once-in-a-lifetime deal which essentially shook up the entire industry. This was never done before, but Nicki Minaj somehow made it happen. The biggest reason as to why she locked this deal down is because she simply knew her value and banked on it. Young Money believed in her enough to make it happen, but that was only possible because she believed in herself first. And Nicki wasn't the hottest thing on the planet back then. She had a few mixtapes behind her name and a couple semi-big records, but her potential wasn't known yet by the world. But she knew what she wanted for her career, she knew her worth, and so she made it happen for herself with the help of a great legal counsel. Securing this kind of deal while not having a lot of leverage as a new rapper who is a woman, that's huge. On top of that, she managed to avoid the infamous 360 deal, which a lot of female rappers are stuck in, some of the most popular ones, mind you. And this is a very big part of this conversation. And the reason why this is a very big part of this conversation is because of this. Till this day, Nicki Minaj has actually never received a single Grammy, which is crazy to think about because she's got nominated over 10 times and has never won a single one. Now, the reason why Nicki still hasn't received a Grammy is because her success doesn't really feed into the industry. I mean, the terms of her contract literally contradicts what the industry is about, which is make us money, and if we're not beneficiaries of your success, what incentive do we have to put you at the forefront? Once I understood this one aspect of Nicki as it relates to her time in the industry, everything kind of started to make sense. And now it does make sense why they didn't want her record to be on the same category as Latto's, because then they would have to give an award to Nicki, and that doesn't make any sense because she ain't making them any damn money. As far as this Nicki conversation as a whole, as it relates to the industry, I kind of stand on two different sides. I understand where the criticism she's received is coming from, because at the end of the day, Nicki hasn't had the best approach to addressing some of the injustice she's faced. I think her approach in a lot of ways has been, when I'm not getting my way, I'm going to scream at them and put them in their place. This is an aspect that has turned a lot of people off from Nicki, because the second you start, yes, that was me barking, cause I'm a dog. Start barking, that's how you give them the exact reaction they want, and now this will be used against you to label you as crazy, no matter if you're telling the truth or not. On the other hand, if she doesn't raise her voice, who's gonna do it for her? Nobody, right? Just like how no one kicked the door down for her, no one is gonna fight for her to get hers. And that's one big reason why I'll always respect Nicki Minaj. Despite all the things people have thrown at her during her time in the industry, she never once budged or let herself be strong-armed by the many opposing voices in the industry. At the end of the day, if there's one thing I've learned about the music industry after covering it for almost 7 years now, it's that the industry doesn't like anyone who doesn't serve them. If there's one thing she's managed to do, it's just that. Not serve them. Nicki serves herself, her audience, and her own agenda. She's done so by not conforming and following suit, which disrupts the natural flow of the business. Anyone that rattles the cage usually get booted the hell out, but not Nicki. She owes her success to nobody but herself. She made it happen for herself, and I think she has every right to protect the position she worked so hard to be in. Anyway, like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if this is the first time you're listening to me speak. I mean, if you made it all the way till the end, that means that you enjoyed the content, right? So subscribe. Come on now, don't be shy. What do you guys think about this Nicki Minaj topic? Any thoughts on it? Nicki Minaj is, after all, one of the most accomplished rappers, actually artists in music period right now. I'm sure this little bit of insight that you've received will spark some thoughts in your head. Curious to hear what you have to say. That aside, you have a good day, stay blessed, and I am